oh dear, this is just not how you end the Fox X-Men franchise.
Yo dudes, the Empire's pretty chill. Maybe you could join it or something.
Lucimus Prime here, so it's time for another movie review in this video, and today it's going to be for what is of course the last of the Fox X-Men film series, and also the last of the spin-offs in that franchise, before of course this franchise moved to Marvel Studios. And sadly we're going to be ending this on a disappointing negative note, because this film for me is a very big disappointment. And that film I'm going to be reviewing, directed of course by Josh Boone, is none other than 2020's The New Mutants. So, now, how was this film made then? So, this film was written by Josh Boone and Nate Lee after Josh Boone completed the film The Fault in Our Stars. And they pitched a potential film trilogy with these characters to X-Men producer Simon Kinberg, and in May 2015, they were officially signed on to the project. And castings also began in March 2016, throughout that year, and the rest of the cast was filled out. Filming took place in Boston, Massachusetts from July to September 2017, primarily at Medfield State Hospital. And the film had a release date of April 2018 in mind, but then this film, however, is notorious for being delayed many times. So, it was first delayed to February 19, 2019 to conduct reshoots. Later, however, it was then pushed back to August 2nd, 2019, because Disney, of course, was purchasing Fox. Then, the film was pushed back to April 3rd, 2020, due to the release of what to me is the absolute worst in this franchise, being X-Men Dark Phoenix. Then, however, on March 12, 2020, the film was then postponed due to COVID. And then, the new release date of August 28, 2020 was announced for this film, and it was finally released on that date. However, when it comes, of course, to reception to this film when it was released in 2020, the film received a generally mixed to negative reviews from critics and was a box office bomb, grossing $49 million worldwide against its production budget of $67 to $80 million. When it comes to my reaction to this film then, so after I heard this film had several negative reviews, I did not see it at the cinemas when it came out in 2020. I chose to wait until, of course, it came to streaming, because I didn't want to make the same mistake I made when I saw Dark Phoenix, because I, of course, absolutely despise that film, as you guys saw in my last review that I did for this film series. So I waited till it was available to stream on Amazon Prime, and I think it was in around 2021, I think. I then got around to renting this film and watching it, and this was also so I could do a ranking of the films too as well, which I've done on my channel, which you can go and check out. And sadly, just like, of course, the critics' reaction, my reaction to this film is that, to me, it's a very big disappointment to the franchise. Now, do I think it's the worst of the franchise? Well, not in my opinion, but it's still, in my opinion, very disappointing. The worst one to me will always be Dark Phoenix. I'd say it's probably, for me, the third worst in the franchise after Dark Phoenix and X-Men Origins Wolverine. That's my opinion. But this film, however, is not good in my opinion. So, now what is this movie about then? So in this film, it tells the story of a group of young mutants who are held in a secret facility, and they're fighting to save themselves. So, now, if I was to think of any redeeming qualities this film has then, so first of all, I think some of the cast members in this film do try their best with what they're given. So, for example, I definitely really do love Maisie Williams in this film as Rain Sinclair, who of course is a mutant wolfsbane who turns into a wolf. Maisie Williams, I think, is a good actress, and I think she did try best what she was given in this film as Rain, in my opinion. And I think in this film she did try her best, in my opinion. And also as well, Elf in the Blue Hump was also, in my opinion, decently good at what she was given as the character Danielle Moonstar, who of course is the mutant Mirage, who can create illusions based on fears and desires of other people. I think she tried her best what she was given, but unfortunately for me, I'd say that for Dani, I couldn't really connect to her as much as like other main characters in this franchise, unfortunately. That's a big shame. And I did also like Charlie Heaton in this film as as Sam Guthrie, who of course is a mutant cannonball who can propel himself into the air and is invulnerable while doing so. I think he did a very good job, in my opinion, in this film we was given, but personally, I prefer Charlie Heater and Waymore as Jonathan Byers in Stranger Things. But I still think in this film he was one of the very few redeeming qualities when it comes to a cast. And I also, thought the CGI was also, in my opinion, decent too as well, in my opinion, for what we had. It was definitely, in my opinion, much better than the CGI in X-Men Wolverine, that's for sure, in my opinion, because the CGI in that film is abominable. In this film, it was decently good, in my opinion, for the most part, I'll say that. I did also, as well, like the musical score by Mark Snow in this film. And I like how, of course, this one went for like a dark horror approach, of course, when it comes to the story. And it went pretty dark at times. I did like that. And the music, in my opinion, definitely helped in that sense, really. So I think Mark Snow's music was good for what it was given, in my opinion. And when it comes as well to this film's vocal cameos, I did like the addition of Marilyn Manson in this film as a voice of a Smiley Man. I personally think Marilyn Manson did a very good job of voicing the Smiley Men, and it's actually very hard to tell it was Marilyn Manson in this film, really. Like, wow, I can't believe it was him. Definitely a big surprise, I must say, really. But sadly, however, though, when it comes, of course, to films with redeeming qualities, that's all about it for me. Now, here's why I'd say this film is a massive disappointment. So, when it comes to some of the characters in this film, there's some of them which I definitely think are very insufferable. I'd say that for me, the worst character in this film was Magic, also known as Ileana Rasputin, who is played by Anya Taylor-Joy. And she's also Colossus' sister as well. But when it comes to this character, I personally think that Ileana was very unlikable and annoying. Like, I didn't like the way she was treated in Annie in this film, in my opinion. She was just so insufferable, in my opinion. I mean, Anya Taylor-Joy is a good actress. I like her much better in other things, like, for example, Splitting Glass, and also vocally in the Super Mario Bros. Movie. But when it comes to her character in this film, Ileana was just so annoying. I just couldn't stand Ileana at all in this film. Like, she really got on my nerves a lot. And in addition to that as well, I was also not a fan of this film's villain being Dr. Cecilia Reyes, who was played by Alice Braga. Now, when it comes, of course, to Alice Braga, I think she's a great actress, but personally, I like her in much better things than this, such as, for example, in I Am Legend, and also, as well, El Predators and the Suicide Squad. But Cecilia Reyes, in my opinion, was just a very bland, generic, boring character, in my opinion. Like, when you compare her to other villains in the X-Men franchise, she's definitely, in my opinion, really bad in comparison. But she's not as terrible, in my opinion, as Buck in Dark Phoenix, that's for sure. And definitely not as abominable to look at compared to Brock Capul in X-Men Origins Wolverine. I'll say that at least. But I still think that Cecilia Reyes, in my opinion, was a really bad villain, in my opinion. Like, just, in my opinion, bland, annoying, and boring, just so generic, and nothing new whatsoever, or anything that made her stand out when it comes to this franchise's villains at all. Just terrible, in my opinion. And also, when it comes to other characters in this film, one of course, the patients in this film, in the facility, is also Sunspot. But I didn't like how this film recasted him, because in this film he's played by Henry Zaga, but for some reason they didn't bring back Adam Cantor from X-Men Days of Future Past, which I was disappointed about. So that makes me wonder, is this film really connected to the rest of the franchise? I really don't know. I mean, it is kind of connected because it does feature archive footage from other films, but it doesn't feel like it at all, in my opinion. Like, sometimes I wonder, why does this film even exist? Like, why? I would definitely say that when it comes to this film, the wait for this film, despite all the delays, was just so not worth it, because the film has no reason to exist in this franchise whatsoever. It has nothing to it, in my opinion. Well, that's why I say it's massively disappointing. Like, I think it would probably work better if they didn't have it as part of the X-Men franchise and just made it like a standalone horror film instead, and made better characters. Like, if you have the story, of course, set in, of course, this facility, with these characters not having powers or anything like that related to the X-Men, and of course making better portrayed characters who aren't unlikable, actually, make it, a good horror film. That's how it could probably work. But unfortunately, I feel like this film is just an absolute joke, really, when it comes to telling an X-Men story. Like, it does not feel like an X-Men film whatsoever, in my opinion, in that sense, really. Apart from those very few connections I just mentioned, really. So, but when it comes to this film, it's definitely, in my opinion, massively disappointing when you compare it to other films. But it's definitely, in my opinion, nowhere near as insufferable as Dark Phoenix or X-Men Origins Wolverine, in my opinion. That's what I'll say, really. But And also as well, the film in my opinion can also get boring at many times too, because the film is 94 minutes, and many parts of the film in my opinion really do get boring. Like, I remember on my rewatch yesterday, I got so bored I played games while it was on really, because it was just so boring. Like, the parts where I actually looked at the film when I rewatched was probably like the few intense moments really. And that's probably about it really, I guess. Like the horror moments and all that. Although I will say, when it comes to Smiley Men though, I wasn't really a fan of how they ripped off like Slender Man when it comes to their design really. That was pretty weird, but Marilyn Manson's voice for him was good though in my opinion, and definitely unrecognisable, but I still think that the design was pretty bad at how they ripped off Slender Man. But although when it comes to what I think of this film, I think it's a massive disappointment to the franchise, and definitely not a good way to end the Fox era for the X-Men at all. You know, considering that, of course, now they're going to be part of the MCU, or as I would name it, MCU. So, there's definitely a bad way to end the franchise, on a very bad note, I must say, really. So, when it comes to what I'd give this film out of 10 then, so, because it's so disappointing, I remember on my ranking video, I used to give it like maybe 5.5 out of 10, but sadly, on my rewatch, my rating has dropped slightly, and I now, unfortunately, would give this film a very bad score, or a very disappointing score of 5 out of 10. That's what I'd give it. Not a good way to end a franchise at all. No. So, guys, this is me doing my review for 2020's The New Mutants. So, you know the drill, guys. Be sure to give this video a like. Also, be sure to put in my comments what you guys think of The New Mutants. If you see it, let me think in the comments below. Also, be sure to join Team Prime by pressing subscribe. Videos coming in the future, and I'll see you all later.